Hello, this is Aaron Greeno, and today I'm going to be showing you how to file a flight plan and get a weather briefing using Flight Service and 1-800-WX-Brief online. So after you log into your 1-800-WX-Brief account, you're going to go to the Plan and Brief section and click Plan and Brief. And this is going to open up a table that we'll use to enter in all the information that we want on our flight plan. So for today, we're going to pretend that it is a flight from Heber City, Utah to Pocatello, Idaho, and our arrow, which is November 32749. So you start with the aircraft ID, which is going to be an N followed by whatever ID you have. That's going to be VFR flight. When it comes to this flight type, if you click on flight type, it will tell you the different types that are there. It's going to be D today for us because it'll be day of VFR. There will be one aircraft, and our aircraft type is a P-28R. If you're ever not sure what aircraft type you have, you can always Google it. These are the ICAO designations. So there's a huge list in here also if you click the magnifying glass. And our wake turbulence is light. Next, we'll go over to aircraft equipment. So if you click this, it gives you all the different options. But for the Piper Arrow 2 that we fly, we are standard. And so standard means a VOR, very high frequency radios, and an ILS. Once we put in our equipment, we're going to go over to our departure, which is going to be Heber City, so Kilo HCR. And then we're going to put in our departure date and time. So for this, I'll just enter 1800 Mountain Daylight Time. Now we has our cruising speed, and our cruising speed requires that we put it in a certain area or a certain format, and that format is in, and then a 4-digit number for your cruising speed. So I will say our cruising speed is going to be 0, 1, 10 knots. Next is our level, and so this is going to be A followed by 3 digits, which is your altitude in hundreds of feet. So our altitude will be A105 for 10,500 feet. Next comes your surveillance equipment. So for us, it's going to be C, since we have a Mode C transponder, and then U1, since we have ADS-B out, but not ADS-B in. Our route of flight is going to be through Logan. So you can put, I'm going to put KLGU, but you can also put any GPS waypoints, any VORs, any other airports. You can put anything in your route of flight and it'll put it along that. This other information form is just optional. You can include anything that you need to include. And then our destination is going to be Pocatello, Idaho, which is KPIH. So we can say our estimated elapsed time. I can ask it to calculate it for me using my cruising speed and the distance. And it is calculating. It's calculating, it'll take us 1 hours and 19 minutes. So this puts it in the 4-digit format where the first 2 digits are the hours and then the second 2 digits are the minutes. So I just messed up. It's supposed to be 0119. So then we can put in our alternates. This is optional, but if we put in an alternate, it'll give us information about whatever airport we choose. So I'll put Logan in. I'm not going to put a second alternate. And then our fuel endurance in the arrow is about 4 hours. Persons on board is going to be 1 for the sake of this example. Our aircraft color and markings, we can click through our airplane's brown. And then supplemental remarks, pilot and command are all optional. You can include emergency radio, survival equipment, jackets, or dinghies, but these are also all optional. So if I was really flying this flight today, the next thing I would do is file this, and that sends the flight plan to the FAA, and then I can open it from my phone, and then they have that on file so they know where I'm going if they need to send search and rescue. I'm not going to file it since I'm not really going to fly this, but I will get a route brief so that we can see. So if you click route brief, it will bring up a series of options, and it's going to bring up a lot of things. This is a lot of information, but we will break it down. There's 3 types. Standard is what I usually use. Abbreviated just gives you a shorter version, and if you're flying, like say you're filing a flight plan that you're going to use the next day, they'll give you an Outlook briefing. And then this just includes everything that you have. So I'm going to include the departure time details, most recent METARs, and then I can also choose it to only include graphical forecast products for departure time, and then I can have it include different NOTAMs. So I'm going to go for a web briefing here, but you can also have it download a PDF or email it to you. So I'll put this in full screen. And then this now will give us all the weather information for our entire flight. I always do this every time before I do a cross country because it really helps me to see everything that's important. So this just gives you a kind of synopsis about things we need to worry about. There's green means VFR TAFs during the route of flight, and then we have a convective SIGMET, but we'll go through each of those in time. So there's no temporary flight restrictions along a route. Also, I should mention, this is going to tell me information in a 200-mile corridor along this area, close to where I plan my flights. You can see the graphical here. I'm leaving Heber City's here, Logan's here, and then Pocatello's here. It's going to give me all the information inside this corridor. So there is a convective SIGMET that's telling us about. There's probably two, because it's thunderstorming out while I'm recording this. And so it's telling us the convective SIGMET starts at 1610 Mountain Daylight Time and ends at 1810 Mountain Daylight Time, which is telling us that that is going to be active while we're crossing our area. So there's this SIGMET and this SIGMET. And then there's also another convective SIGMET and a convective outlook, and it's telling us about all of these. I'm going to keep scrolling through these. There's no other SIGMETs, and then these are the AirMets. So there's no AirMets for IFR, mountain obscuration, or for icing. Then it's going to show us our freezing level. So our freezing level is going to be 16,000 feet here. And then here is an AirMet right here, or this is the AirMet telling us the freezing level. Then we have an AirMet that is going to cross our path right over at Pocatello, which is AirMet Tango, which means turbulence. So this starts at 1445 Mountain Daylight Time, ends at 0300 Mountain Daylight Time. Moderate turbulence between 14,000 feet and flight level 180. So we need to worry about that. And then there's also a high altitude turbulence. So this is giving me the AirMet. It applies for flight level 180 and 380, so I don't necessarily need to worry about it, but it's still included in the brief. And then this is an Outlook AirMet for moderate turbulence, and this is a good example. It shows us that it's supposed to start 60 minutes after we're estimated to leave the flight area. So that AirMet will start after we've already landed. And then there's also, it's telling me there's no AirMets for high winds and no AirMets for low level wind shear. There's no urgent PIREPs on our route of flight, no center weather advisories, severe weather, or volcanic ash advisories, so we don't need to worry about any of that. And then this is just our surface analysis, which includes with precipitation, low and high pressure cells, and isobars. And then next is going to tell us the METARs. So this is the METARs along our route of flight right now, and it tells us this in decoded form, and it's warning us about the density altitude. So density altitude at Heber is almost 8,000 feet. I probably wouldn't actually fly that right now, but like I said, I'm just recording this for lesson purposes. And then because we put in our alternate, it's going to show us our destination, and then because we put in our alternate, it'll also show us the things there. And it does a good job of highlighting anything you need to be worried about. So thunderstorms in red, the density altitude here is in orange. And then we have the cloud coverage chart. So this shows the cloud coverage in the area. And then we have the cloud coverage for the whole country. And you can also click this to see a blown up view of it. Then we have the surface winds and precipitation. You can see why today might be a bad day to fly, but this will tell us the visibility, surface winds, and precipitation for regions along our route of flight. This is just the aviation forecast. And so you should be familiar with this chart, but it just tells you your thunderstorms, your wind barbs, everything like that. Because really what this service does is it compiles all the FAA weather charts that you should know about for your route of flight and puts it in one place for you so you have all of them. So it shows us it for our relevant area, and then it shows us it for the entire country. And then getting towards the end now, we have our terminal aerodrome forecast. So this is telling us the different things. So Heber Valley, our terminal aerodrome forecast is good here, but there's temporary between 1900 and 2200 Zulu, going to be variable 15 to 25 gusting winds, thunderstorms, and light rain. And then it also shows you anything in this corridor like we talked about. So it's going to give us the TAF for Provo, it's going to give us the TAF for Salt Lake City, giving us a TAF for Hill Air Force Base, Ogden, Logan Cache, since that's a longer route and that's an alternate for us, and then finally our destination. And it'll tell you if you're flying to a place that doesn't have a TAF, the TAF nearest to your destination. So then this is our winds aloft. We've got them from Pocatello and a quick decoder. And then we have it for Pocatello and Salt Lake City. light variable here. Then it's asking, there's no area forecast. This is now our convective outlook. So this shows us the convective outlook for where we are. So we're in the general area in the orange here. So then we have our NOTAMs. So these are our departure NOTAMs. So it's telling us that at Cedar City, our automated weather broadcast system is unserviceable from now until September 29th. And visibility is not available from before now until September 2nd. And then it'll tell us about obstructions. So there's a crane 5,700 feet, 100 feet above ground level, not lighted and flagged. It'll tell us about airspace. It'll tell us about special use airspace. And it'll tell us our radio altimeter is unreliable here. This includes all the different NOTAMs. So this is telling us about stuff because of 5G band interference. And since our plane doesn't have a radio altimeter, we don't need to worry about that. This is FDC minimum or NOTAM, so this tells us about instrument approach charts or runway closures. So this is just telling us about takeoff minimums for the instrument departure, if we needed to know about that. And then we have NOTAMs for our destination. So same thing, obstruction, crane, obstruction, nothing about navigation, communication, or service, airspace, apron. So there's construction, lighted and barricaded, and we don't need to worry about that. And then because we put it in, it's going to give us our NOTAMs for our alternate. And then navigation-wise, it'll tell us any en route NOTAMs. So it's telling us different VORs are unserviceable. So for example, the Malad VOR, as we're going through, is unserviceable from August 25th at 1400 Zulu to August 25th at 2359 Zulu. So just about a few hours. And then this is obstructions. So we don't need to worry about this. This is airspace. So this is telling us about anything that we need to know about. So an unmanned aerial system, airspace, and then any special use airspace. So there's a restricted area within our area of flight. And then more NOTAMs. And then these are the en route NOTAMs. These are the general FDC NOTAMs. So anything about airspace or instrument approaches. Like, so for example, we've got Salt Lake City, Bonner, Montana. This is in the Salt Lake City area. There's going to be a laser light demonstration. So it has random things like that that you might need to know about. And then international NOTAMs, which we don't really need to know about because we are not flying internationally right now. And that, I think, is the end of it. We've got all these things now. Yep, so these are just advisories. And then last is the UAS operating area. So this is telling us where we can expect UASs to be. So there you have it. And then last, if there were any, it would be National Hurricane Center bulletins. So that is how you file and get a weather brief from 1-800-WX-BRIEF. Like I said before, I like to do this before every flight because it checks all the boxes of what I need to know. It gives me all the weather information for everything along my route of flight. It gives me any AirMets or SIGMETs. It lets me know about TFRs. I can check my NOTAMs here. It just kind of combines everything into one spot so I can file my flight plan so the FAA knows where I'm going and I can get all the information that I need. So I hope this was helpful.